Namaste. Jupiter in the second house is a beautiful placement. It's just that when Jupiter is retrograde and it is placed in the second house, then you will face delays when it comes to attaining success in your career. Success will come, but it will come late. Retrograde Jupiter in the second house will delay but will not deny. Success will be delayed but not denied. Jupiter in the second house is a beautiful placement. I personally like those who have Jupiter in the second house or first house. It is a sign that the person has certain values, certain principles, and is not behind money. He is not very calculative. He is not more into his head, but he follows his heart. And such a person is a beautiful person. Many times it happens that when a person is alive, people doesn't realize his value. It is only when he is dead that people start building temples on his name. There was one such artist, a great artist, who became famous after his death. When he was alive, he had to struggle a lot, but he never compromised on his values. Always remember, a man of truth will never compromise on his values, on his principles. To him, death is better than to compromise. In this podcast, I have shared a beautiful incident, a story of this great artist. Jupiter second is a sign where the person will not serve you just for money. If he understands that you don't value what he is serving, then he would rather not sell you anything. He would rather not serve you anything. He is happy to serve only those who can understand the value of his service. There is much more that I have shared in this podcast. So let's begin. Retrograde Jupiter in the second house gives adverse results regarding finances and money. The native is unable to save money, Money comes but also is spent, and the native constantly struggles to save money. The family of such a native is generally big in size, or the native's family enjoys a higher status in society. The native is generally born in a highly privileged family, especially if retrograde Jupiter is in Cancer, Pisces, or Sagittarius. The native generally eats less, though he is a foodie by heart. Always remember, food is life. Because you have food to eat, you are alive. And so, one who loves food loves life. And a foodie is always in love with life. You tend to dislike food when you dislike your life, when you are utterly depressed, and you like to have food and you like to have various delicacies when you are celebrating life, when you are loving life. Jupiter in the second house is actually a very positive placement. However, retrograde Jupiter placement in the second house takes away the glory, since retrogradation tends to reduce the impact of positive results. However, still, Jupiter is Jupiter. Sugar is sugar. No matter what quality it is, sugar will always taste sweet. Similarly, even though Jupiter is retrograde in the second house, it is not bad. This placement delays the prospects of money making, though it never denies the prospect of money making. Depending on the strength of Jupiter in the birth chart and the sign it occupies, the result will vary. Retrograde Jupiter in Capricorn will give the worst results, while retrograde Jupiter in Cancer will give much better results. The sign decides the outcome, as well as the sign lord strength decides the final result. If your moon sign lord is retrograde Jupiter and is placed in the second house, then you tend to get confused regarding your ideology and the reality of life. The most significant quality of being realistic is found to be missing in natives having retrograde Jupiter in second house. This can be a good placement for artists and poets. However, this is certainly not a good placement for those who wish to make a career in fields where you have to face the hard realities of life, such as crime, corruption, fraud, and politics. Health issues related to eyes, teeth, and throat occur with this placement. If moon is afflicted by Rahu or Mars, then retrograde Jupiter in the second house is a sign that the person may accept bribes and may work unethically. In a negative chart, this placement can make one selfish by nature, and it is this selfishness that leads one to many miseries of life. Selfishness is the greatest curse of the human race. Your life becomes difficult when you tend to become more and more selfish, and your life becomes a garden of bliss when you start becoming selfless. It is important that when pursuing your own self-interest, you should be wise selfish and not foolish selfish. Being foolish selfish means pursuing your own interests in a narrow, short-sighted way. Being wise selfish means taking a broader view and recognizing that our own long-term individual interest lies in the welfare of everyone. Being wise selfish means being compassionate. A negative chart having retrograde Jupiter in the second house makes one foolish selfish. However, retrograde Jupiter when placed in the second house and the horoscope has a very positive moon and sun placement, then such a person is an altogether different type of person. He may starve to death, but he will never compromise on his values. To the world, he may appear as a madman, a totally insane person, but In the kingdom of God, he is regarded as the most lovable person. Reminds me of one such person. He became one of the greatest legendary artists, but ironically, after death. Until he was alive, he was not known much for his work of art. His name was Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was a very unique artist, but nobody was willing to buy his paintings. It was difficult for the general audience to understand the depth of his unique paintings. It happens. When you are alive, people may not realize the worth of your works, but when you die, suddenly you may become famous. When Vincent van Gogh was alive, struggling in his youth, nobody paid any attention to his work of art. His brother became worried because not a single painting of Vincent van Gogh was sold. And so one day his brother paid some money to a man and told him to go and purchase at least one painting. He said to the man, that will give him some satisfaction. The poor man is dying. The whole day he is painting, starving for painting, but nobody is ready to purchase his painting. Nobody sees anything in it. Because to see something in Vincent van Gogh's painting, you need the eye of a painter of the caliber of Van Gogh. Less than that will not do. His paintings will seem strange to you. His trees are painted so high that they go above the stars. Stars are left far behind. Now you will think that this man is mad. Trees going up higher than the stars? Have you seen such trees anywhere? When Vincent van Gogh was asked, your trees always go beyond the stars, he said, yes, because I understand trees. I have felt always that trees are the ambition of the earth to reach the stars. Otherwise, why? To touch the stars, to feel the stars, to go beyond the stars, this is the desire of the earth. The earth tries hard but cannot fulfill the desire. I can do it. The earth will understand my paintings, and I don't care about you, whether you understand or not. Now these kind of paintings you cannot sell. The man his brother had sent came. Van Gogh was very happy. At last somebody had come to purchase. But soon his happiness turned into despair because the man looked around, picked one painting and gave the money. Vincent van Gogh said, but do you understand the painting? You have picked it up so casually. You have not looked at it. I have hundreds of paintings. You have not even bothered to look around. You have simply picked one that was accidentally in front of you. I suspect that you are sent by my brother. Put the painting back and take your money. I will not sell the painting to a man who has no eyes for painting. And tell my brother never to do such a thing again. The man was puzzled about how he managed to figure it out. He said, you don't know me. How did you figure it out? And Vincent van Gogh said, that's too simple. I know my brother wants me to feel some consolation. He must have manipulated you, and this money belongs to him, because I can see that you are blind as far as paintings are concerned. And I am not one to sell paintings to blind people. I cannot exploit a blind man and sell him a painting. What will he do with it? And tell my brother also that he also does not understand painting, otherwise he would not have sent you. When the brother came to know, he came to apologize. He said, instead of giving you a little consolation, I have wounded you. I will never do such a thing again. I am sorry. This is exactly how retrograde Jupiter in second house natives are. They cannot exploit others, and because of such a good ethical nature, they tend to miss the opportunity of becoming a millionaire. But in the eyes of God, they are the real gems, whose value cannot be understood by shallow men and shallow women. One significant trait of retrograde Jupiter is that they are fond of opening bank accounts in multiple banks. In fact, they also love banking. Good bankers or financial advisors are born with this placement, especially if Mercury, Moon, and Venus are well placed in the birth chart. Normal Jupiter or retrograde Jupiter in the second house native is always my favorite, because the very presence of Jupiter in the second house is a very positive sign, and such a person generally is well versed in languages and is decent and also is wise in his overall behavior and thought process. The most significant outcome of retrograde Jupiter in the second house is that this placement becomes a great protecting angel when it comes to safeguarding you from the many attacks of black magic spells and voodoo spells. I can bet that if you have Jupiter in the second house and your moon and sun are not afflicted by Rahu, then you will definitely overcome all the black magic spells cast upon you by your enemies, and in the end you will emerge victorious by defeating all your secret and open enemies. The remedy to strengthen your retrograde Jupiter in the second house is by worshipping Lord Vishnu and reciting Lord Vishnu Shloka or Stotra. You can also listen to Vishnu Sahasranam. The most effective mantra for retrograde Jupiter in the second house is the soothing Vishnu mantra. Om Vishnave Namaha. Om Vishnave Namaha. Om Vishnave Namaha. By chanting this mantra, you will attain much progress in your finances, as well as you will attract more income and prosperity in your life. You should chant this holy Vishnu mantra 108 times every day without fail. Another remedy is to avoid eating spicy food and also avoid eating street food. Retrograde Jupiter in the second house may indulge you in eating all kinds of food delicacies. However, if you don't control your taste buds, then you will end up putting a lot of body weight, and some may even face challenges such as obesity. Retrograde Jupiter in the second house simply is the message that you need to focus on your self-growth, your values, your ethics, and monitor your finances as well as your eating habits. Overall, it is not a bad placement. It is just a reminder that when it comes to money and food, you should be extra cautious. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. ઓમ ગમ ગણપતયે નમઃ.